Hello, my name is Jacob. I'm with Back to the Center podcast. This is going to be our first podcast that we're dropping on this channel. And what we're going to basically do is go through some of the recent events that have been happening this week, and there is quite a few, and just give some commentary and some information to those of you who may not be aware. And just to give a little bit about me, I started this channel, and I am a politically centered person. I'm torn between left and right. I have views on both sides, so I don't really fall into either category. And I know there's quite a few people like that out there who don't really fit into either party on the political spectrum in the United States. So this channel is for all of those who fit in that same category as me, and people who just want to hear an opinion that might be different from them or from their own. But basically, this week there's been a lot of events, and we're going to be going through mostly what's going on in Afghanistan and some world events reflecting and taking place that circle around that, both in the United States and other countries. So I want to start out by saying, recently, especially the last couple months, all we've really seen in the news is COVID-related situations, parents going to school boards, arguing against masking their children, vaccine passports and mandates in big cities and across the country, and also just disagreements between vaccine effectiveness and freedom. There's a lot of arguments being made about freedom, and people arguing that the health of the society is a bigger responsibility, and we're not really going to get into that today. But it's crazy how fast the wind can change in politics, and especially mainstream media. So looking here, I have a couple different articles from some left-wing and right-wing different news sites. The biggest thing that I would take from this is Joe Biden has gotten a lot of good coverage and a lot of covering from the left-wing media that some people on the right wouldn't consider to be very fair, and I'm not going to comment on that, but needless to say, when CNN is covering Joe Biden and they're putting it to him pretty hard, asking tough questions to him and his staff, and it's something you don't typically see, especially after 4 years of Donald Trump taking a lot of heat from left-wing media, especially CNN. It's different to see the tables turn on Joe Biden. Personally, from these last couple weeks, I was really surprised at how fast it changed. Joe Biden is getting some heat from both sides of the political aisle. The biggest thing that has happened this week is the fall of Afghanistan. The pullout has been something that's been in people's mind ever since Joe Biden took over from Donald Trump with the May 1st deadline. And I don't think anyone expected this type of frustration on either side from the terrible, terrible things that we're seeing on this news. We've seen people falling from the airplanes they're just hanging on to the sides of it whenever the big planes are taking off from the airport. People are just getting shot. Every news coverage that we're seeing on the ground is terrible, terrible. There are quite a few articles that I'd like to go over today. As you can see, I have them saved here on the tabs of my computer. We're going to go through each and every one of them. I'm not going to read all of them, but I just want to give you an idea of what these reporters are saying and how there seems to be a pretty good consensus on both sides. So this first one is from CNN, a left-wing source. Chaos in Kabul as the Taliban take power and thousands try to flee. Now, there's quite a few videos circulating, and I'm not going to show them, of even children falling out of these planes, people holding onto the landing gear getting crushed just because they wanted to cling onto those planes even when they were thousands of feet in the air. From CNN, hundreds of people poured onto the tarmac at Kabul's international airport, desperately seeking a route out of Afghanistan on Monday, after the Taliban's sudden seizure of power sparked a chaotic Western withdrawal and brought to a crashing end the United States' 2-decade mission in the country. Now, one comment I do want to have is I've seen a lot of different interviews and people that serve overseas in Afghanistan, saying that the pullout should have been initiated from Bagram Airfield. It was much more defensible, and also it was much larger, and it wasn't in the middle of the city. Kabul is a city with millions of people, because millions of people, and the airport's right in the middle of it. So it's basically just surrounded by the Taliban. Bagram Airfield was, isolated, defensible, and it had lots of military personnel. You wouldn't see the same chaos that's happening now, and a lot of people have put their opinions out there that Bagram should have been where the withdrawal comes from. The longer this goes on, the more I'm inclined to agree with them. And we're just seeing panic and a rush that is unbelievable. I've seen different reports and images from the fall of Saigon in Vietnam. Lots of our parents or grandparents may have served over there. And it's hard to believe something like this would happen, this day and age with all the technology that we have, especially after 20 years of total domination by the United States in Afghanistan. And especially with all the help that people have been giving to our government, just to see all of this, come down in a week, a bunch of, they didn't even have an air force, and they took out this entire country in a week with nothing but AK-47s, RPGs, and some vehicles, and they have absolutely took over the entire country. So now that that's done with my vent there, I'm not going to show any of this, but actually I will. Listen to this.
Rang out earlier as crowds raced to catch a flight at the airport, and this scene appears to be on the tarmac. CNN cannot independently verify it, but video shows masses of people scrambling up again.
Let me just pause it right there. A lot of you have seen the videos that happen after this takes place. These people are just crowding and holding on to each other for dear life because they know what's coming. If you read reports and see what the Taliban used to do pre-9/11 when they had control of the Afghan government, women were slaves, they were sex slaves, they had no rights, they couldn't go anywhere without a male relative present, they weren't allowed to go to school or own property, initiate divorce, anything. Everybody's heard the stories of women getting acid thrown in their face and disfigured for their life for doing nothing out of the ordinary in Western culture. You can have your opinion on their beliefs religiously, but we're seeing incredible human rights violations, and they're just going to continue again. After this pullout, everybody is saying that, yes, we could have done it better. But the problem is, the United States, when we first went over there, initially it was to capture or kill Osama bin Laden, destroy Al-Qaeda in their foothold that they had in Afghanistan. And the Taliban supported them. That's why we took them out. Taliban, they weren't completely defeated. They went up into the mountains and the caves, and they were hiding out, and it's been guerrilla warfare ever since. But, I'm tired of seeing both left and right-wing sources saying, we were never there to do nation building. Yes, that was true. We did not go over there for nation building. But eventually, after 20 years, we were over there for so long that the people there started to adapt to us being there. Their government system adapted to us being there. Their soldiers only knew how to fight with American air support and American personnel on the ground and intelligence. So it was more of a symbiotic relationship that developed between our people and their people against the Taliban. Most of these people don't support the Taliban. Most of them just support them out of fear. They're going around right now and kidnapping any female relative that's above 12 years old in their homes. And this is very scary stuff. But I just think of it more of a scapegoat, to take responsibility off us when it says, well, we did what we came to do. We were only there to get the terrorists. Okay, that might be true. You did come there and get the terrorists. But when are you going to take responsibility for the way that you have developed their entire economy, helped them with their security? I mean, when there was 35,000 troops there whenever Obama was president in 2012. Now there's 2,500. you can't tell me that after 10 years of that high of troop count that they're just going to completely be fine. No, it's adaptability. They should have been slowly weaned off of that. Trump, he set in a checklist for what should have been done before the Taliban before the United States even pulled out of the government, or out of the entire Afghanistan area. We had our small troop presence there, protect the embassy, a couple air bases. Now that none of that's there, now we're having to send troops back in because of this fall. And it's completely Joe Biden's fault. Once we took over, we gave them protection. Women could go to school, they could run for political offices. It's insane how fast this is falling apart. People are fleeing for their lives, trying to get anywhere but here. Anywhere but Afghanistan. And one really scary thing is the fact that these women, there's a whole generation of them who have known freedom and education and rights. They're going to be thrown directly back to where they were. It's going to be like how they lived for thousands of years. They once had their rights, but they're all going to be taken away from them because a bunch of barbarians are going to take their freedom. They're going to capture them. They're going to do whatever they want with them. They will no longer have a voice, and no one is there to defend them. Their government ran off. Their president ran off. They surrendered. They surrendered their entire country in a week. Right? What I would say is because the United States, their role in the Afghan government and the Afghan security forces slowly evolved over the time that we went there. It went from, we were going to kill the terrorists, we were going to get Osama bin Laden, no terrorist foothold in Afghanistan. We are destroying that, that is our goal. To, okay, these people actually need our help and we're going to invest $1 trillion into them. And then you're just going to pull that away? Absolutely not. The government, the United States government, turned into nation building. Whenever they were there for that long, the Taliban got support because of the occupation of the United States. We have some responsibility to those Afghanis or the Afghan people. We have some responsibility to take care of these people that for so long we have protected. It is not right for us to just pull out and throw them under the bus because we need to end the endless wars. Do I think that we should have pulled out of Afghanistan? Absolutely. But we are seeing these horrible things. Like, it's a modern day, it's a genocide. It's an entire group, or half the population of, which is women, losing their rights. They will no longer have a voice, and we are no longer there to protect them. These accounts come as the U.S., the United Kingdom, and other nations mount a hurried evacuation of embassy staff and nationals in scenes echoing the fall of Saigon 46 years ago. Now, we've all seen that picture of the helicopters on top of the U.S. Embassy in Saigon. And, that was one of those wars where a lot of people argue that we should have never been there in the first place. Very similar to how people are reacting now. But when we pulled out of Saigon, it took a long time for everything to fall there. We are pulling out as the country's falling. Not only that, we're having to redeploy troops. Alright, let's read a little bit more. It's a withdrawal, U.S. President Joe Biden said. He still stood squarely behind on Monday in his first remarks since the Taliban takeover, where he continued the administration's effort to shift the blame onto Afghan leaders for the fall of Kabul, saying the political leaders gave up and fled the country. Of course they did. They didn't know how to fight without U.S. air support. They had been literally fighting with U.S. support for 20 years. The U.S., when they left, they pulled the civilian contractors out of the Afghan Air Force. What were they supposed to do? They fight with their hands behind their back. There are 300,000 people that you were telling them to go ahead and fight without fighting how they were used to. Like, what were they supposed to do? This is completely different. The Taliban knew what they were doing. They've been doing the same thing for 2 generations. They have been fighting the same way, and they're going to continue to fight the same way. Except now, there's nobody there to stand against them. Okay? They are just going through blitzkrieg style, taking over the entire country. And they pretty much already have. If it wasn't for the ceasefire deal, we would see a lot of American deaths coming out of the Kabul area. We don't even have all of them out of there. All American citizens, they're still there. And also on top of that, all of the translators and people who've assisted our troops over the years, they're still there. There's tens, possibly hundreds of thousands of them. They are still there, and we have no intentions of helping them. Because how are we going to? What are we going to do? Redeploy troops? About over 6,000 troops there now. What are we supposed to do? Reconquer the entire country? Let's continue reading. Quote by President Biden. The Afghan military collapsed, sometimes without trying to fight. If anything, the developments in the past week reinforced ending that U.S. military involvement. Afghanistan now was the right decision. I think we kind of see what he's saying there, but come on, dude. That was not very coherent there at all. Joe Biden was, on vacation while this was happening. He wasn't even at the White House. He wasn't in the briefing room. He wasn't sitting there with all of his leaders going through what would happen. They were like, oh, we're going to pull out and then I'll be back. And, well, look where we're at now. Press Secretary Jen Psaki was on vacation as well. They must have thought that the left-wing media was going to cover for him. Obviously not. We're reading through a CNN article here. Biden admitted, however, that the administration had miscalculated how rapidly Kabul would fall. The truth is, this did unfold more quickly than we anticipated. Are you serious, man? Anybody can see that. Turn on the TV. Look through Facebook. It's all over. TikTok. I mean, I just can't even with this, man. This is awful. The sudden arrival of chaos in Kabul has taken many by surprise. Really. The U.S. intelligence analyst had predicted it would likely take several more weeks before Afghanistan's civilian government in Kabul fell to Taliban fighters. But on Sunday, after encroaching toward the city, the militants took control of the presidential palace while ousted Afghan President Ashraf Ghani fled the country. Alright, there's a couple things I want to go into here. The U.S. government knew that they were going to fall. Think about that for a minute. They knew the Afghan government was going to fall. Okay. So right there, they just abdicated their responsibility. Okay? So if they knew they were going to fall, why did they hastily retreat like that? It wasn't falling until the troops started pulling out. Okay? Second of all, why did President Biden not get everyone out before he took the military personnel out? He took the military personnel out, left the bases there, and then sent troops back in to get people out. 10 to 15,000 people that are American citizens are still in Afghanistan. And that's not including all of the Afghan people who are going to be getting visas for assisting the United States military and contractors. Alright, I'm going to show you something here on the New York Post. The Taliban has billions in U.S. weapons. Billions with a B. Billions. Taliban has billions in U.S. weapons, including Black Hawks and up to 600K rifles. Really, you cannot make this stuff up. Taliban has seized U.S. weapons left in Afghanistan worth billions, possibly 600,000 assault rifles and some 2,000 armored vehicles and 40 aircraft, including Black Hawks, according to reports. This is insane. Not only are we talking about people who are savages, who don't give any human rights to women, they rape little girls and little boys. Look up the Afghan dancing boys. It is a serious, serious problem that these Taliban people have. They have given them modern-day military equipment for free. Not only did they give them the weapon and the supplies, they have the bases. All of the former bases. They have all of them. They have Humvees, armored vehicles. This is crazy. So not only are we sending troops back in, but they're going to have to possibly fight them with our own weapons. This is insane, man. The U.S. gave the Afghan military an estimated $28 billion in weaponry between 2002 and 2017, including 7 brand new helicopters delivered to Kabul just a month ago, which the Taliban now have. Oh, and this is the crazy thing. So when the Taliban went up to the Afghan government, they also surrendered their weapons. So there's no telling how many more weapons they have just from the Afghan government. Think about that for a minute. The war chest also included the supply of at least 600,000 infantry weapons, including M16 assault rifles, as well as 162,000 pieces of communication equipment and 16,000 night vision goggles. Wow. They have... Okay, so to think about this for a minute. Some of these night vision goggles are worth between $5,000 to $20,000, and they have 16,000 of them. Think of this. It's incredible. In just 2 years, from 2017 to 2019, the U.S. gave 7,035 machine guns, 4,702 Humvees, and 20,040 hand grenades, 2,520 bombs, 1,394 grenade launchers, the Hill noted. Citing a report last year from the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction. This is incredible, man. These people, look at this. You think they could have got that on their own? No, they stole it, and they were given it. This is crazy. Humvees, 40 aircraft, Black Hawks, scout attack helicopters. They got drones. This is incredible. Yeah, the terrorists aren't going to go back to Afghanistan. Look at all the stuff they have. Like, this is making ISIS look like a joke compared to the weaponry that they now have. They have weaponry that's on par with anybody in NATO. Sure, they might not have all of the jets and stuff that we do, but infantry on the ground warfare, they have everything that we do now. This is crazy. Now I'm going to skip over here. So this is probably the most unifying political event that's happened within the last 5 years, I would say. And not in a positive way. Only 25% of Americans approve Biden's handling of Afghanistan poll. This is on Newsweek. Not exactly a conservative news source. Just a quarter of Americans say the approval of President Joe Biden's handling of Afghanistan, and as the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. forces from the country faces widespread criticism. New polling released Sunday by NBC News, again, not conservative media, showed that only 25% of respondents said they approve of Biden's handling of the situation in Afghanistan. Conversely, 60% of the respondents say they disapproved of the president's action when it came to withdrawing from the 2 decades-long conflict. The poll was conducted from August 14th to August 17th and has a margin of error plus or minus 3.1%. 1,000 U.S. adults were interviewed for the survey. Okay, so this is 1,000 people who were surveyed, left and right, at random. Overwhelmingly against Joe Biden. He was supposed to be this great unifying figure, and this is the most unified they've ever been against him. And it's on both sides. Needless to say, this pullout, it was never about getting the people or getting us out of Afghanistan military-wise, or getting the United States military out of Afghanistan. What this came down to is these people depended on us, and every human rights violation, everybody who's murdered because they took over, or the Taliban took over, all the women who are mutilated, disfigured, raped, killed, all the little boys raped, killed. This is all on Joe Biden's hands. He could have prevented this. He could have kept a small presence there like we've had and supported the Afghan government. Eventually, they would be able to stand on their own 2 feet. But whenever they have a crutch for 20 years fighting a people, and you take that crutch from them, no wonder they fell. And no wonder they fell as quickly as they did. This has got to be the biggest embarrassment, military-wise, or militarily, by the United States in a generation. Okay? Joe Biden, he said it's impossible for it to fall. He said it was not going to happen. He said that we have invested in them. There are 300,000 troops against 75,000 Taliban. It's a no-brainer. Could he have been more wrong? Now look at this. A baby that was photographed being passed to the U.S. soldiers over razor wire in Afghanistan has been safely reunited with their father. Look at this image. This is just one image. This baby is being thrown over to a United States soldier, because that parent knows that that baby, if it gets to those U.S. soldiers, it's going to have much better chance of having a good, safe, and life with freedom. This is on Yahoo News. This is incredible. This is happening both with U.S. personnel and UK, because they still have quite a few troops there. This is incredible. Over razor wire. This is happening all over the country. There's videos. Small Afghan girl was lifted up over the high perimeter wall. Let's take a look at this video. Let me skip it a little bit. Look at this. Imagine how desperate as a parent you must be to surrender your kid to people that you don't know in the hopes that they would have a better life without you, because you are sacrificing yourself to get them to a better place. That is what these parents are doing. Most of them haven't been to America. They're going on pure faith that their kid is going to be with these people who can provide a better life. It's just incredible. Now, Joe Biden, he had a pretty interesting interview with George Stephanopoulos that I'll get into here in a minute. But I also want to get into CNN's Jake Tapper confronts Secretary Blinken on Biden bearing the blame for disastrous Afghanistan exit. Now, again, I'm not a left-wing person, I'm not a right-wing person. I typically stay away from CNN, and I typically stay away from Fox News. But CNN has been doing some excellent reporting on this, and after all of their reporting on Donald Trump, it's very surprising for me to say that. Typically get my news from independent sources, but I love this. This is incredible reporting. I watched this entire interview. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on Sunday defended what many critics are calling a disastrous U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and a rapid takeover by the Taliban. Now, when I watched this interview with Jake Tapper and Secretary Blinken, he read a quote from a former diplomatic ambassador for the United States to Afghanistan under Barack Obama, Joe Biden was the vice president to Barack Obama. You'd think that he'd mirror some of his policy here, but absolutely not. He called, and I quote, a handover to the Taliban. I'm left with grave questions in my mind about Biden's ability to lead our nation as commander-in-chief. Crocker wrote, to have read this so wrong, or even worse, to have understood what was likely to happen and not care. We've known all along, said all along, including the president, that the Taliban was at its greatest position of strength at any time since 2001 when it was last in charge of Afghanistan. Blinken said in response, this is the Taliban we have inherited. So we saw the country that they are very much capable of going on the offensive and beginning to take back the country. Okay, so you just leave. Oh, they're capable. They're the strongest they've been in 20 years. We're just going to give up. When has the United States ever just given up? Especially when there's millions of people depending on them for freedom and safety. They may not have been the perfect democracy like us, but these people, they had the most freedom they had ever experienced under United States assistance. And they just gave it away. They just let them have it. Biden made a deal. As long as you don't mess with our personnel, we'll leave. And that's exactly what's happening. Not a death in 18 months on the United States side. Yep, well, that's probably why. But how many Afghan deaths will take place because of this? We're just seeing the beginning. Wait till the videos start coming out. These people are terrorists. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, they're already moving in. What are we going to do? Are we going to just airstrike them? They have modern age advanced weaponry that we just gave them, billions. There's no going back in now. As soon as they get the entire country under their belt and no Western presence in the capital city, we are going to be seeing a revolution there. They're going to have more firepower than they've ever had before, and we're not going to be able to do anything. George Stephanopoulos, he interviewed President Joe Biden, and this is I only want to read one quote out of this interview. Let me get down here to it. Stephanopoulos said, quote, "So you don't think this could have been handled? This exit could have been handled any better in any way? No mistakes." Biden, quote, "No, I don't think it could have been handled in a way that we're going to go back in hindsight and look, but the idea that somehow there's a way to have gotten out without chaos ensuing, I don't know how this happens. I don't know how that happened." This guy's supposed to be the most informed person in the United States government. He is the leader who makes the public and biggest decisions of any man, the most powerful man on the planet. And he doesn't know how it happened. Is his intelligence wrong? Because there's some people that should get fired if they are. There's some people that should be resigning right now, and we're not seeing that. We've seen some threats from the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but nothing major. Blinken, he's Secretary of State, International Relations. This guy's whole purpose of being in the president's cabinet. And all he can do is just blame or pass the blame on Joe Biden. All he can do is just pass the blame on. And whenever he's getting this kind of coverage from both the left and the right, he doesn't know what to do with it. It's why he went on vacation. He thought that they would cover for him. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know what is going on. He doesn't know how he failed, or he doesn't want to tell us, which is worse. It's completely up to you. He's either incompetent or he's just wrong. This guy's supposed to make informed decisions with plenty of advisors, and he doesn't know. What I do know is that there's going to be a lot of women that are going to die, and they're going to go through some of the most traumatic things that women can go through, and we're not going to help them. Some of our own people are stuck there. We haven't even got them out yet. They literally said they cannot protect them on their way to the airport. They cannot protect them. Joe Biden's going to leave without them. Mark my words, he will leave without them. Now, this is a double-edged sword, because you have the entire Taliban side of this, but then you have the side where the United States looks extremely weak. And there's several countries out there who would love nothing more than to see us weak and see us fall so that their plans can come to fruition. Two of them, China and Russia. Now this is from ABC News. China both worries and hopes as U.S. departs Afghanistan. China is facing heightened risk along with potential political and economic opportunities following the Taliban's rapid rise to power. Wow, there's a lot there. In the U.S. departure from Afghanistan, China has seen the realization of long-held hopes for a reduction of the influence of a geopolitical rival in what it considers its backyard. They border each other. Right there. There's a little strip. Yet, it is also deeply concerned that the very withdrawal can bring risk and instability to that backyard, Central Asia, and possibly even spill over their narrow, remote border into China itself and the heavily Muslim northwestern region of Xinjiang. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. The Taliban's takeover could certainly present political and economic opportunities for China, including developing Afghanistan's vast mineral riches, and Beijing has said it is ready to help rebuild the impoverished nation. Where have we seen this before? Africa. But the stability will be required to reap most of the benefits, and the immediate result of the American withdrawal has been more instability, not less. Alright, think about this for a minute. Afghanistan has a lot of natural resources, especially minerals used for making technology, and it's right there. And think about this. Another country that the United States has a lot of issues with is Iran. China, Afghanistan, Iran. That is just scary stuff. They're not even going to have to fly over. They will have a connection there for trade. What are you going to do? What you going to put tariffs? You're going to put sanctions on them? China is a big enough country, a strong enough country to look at the United States and go, you can do that to other countries, but you can't do that to us. That's really scary. That's the reality. The reality is China is not the country it was 100 years ago. China is probably the second most powerful country on the planet after the United States. Now, don't get me wrong, the United States is stronger. But China has resolve that we no longer have. Even a year ago, under Donald Trump, something like this would never have happened. You can say what you want about Donald Trump, but the biggest thing is Donald Trump was not weak. He went straight up to Kim Jong-un. He used to talk to China. People knew that he may not have been the guy that we needed, but he sure was the guy who wasn't going to get stepped on. The moment Joe Biden gets in here, they start laughing. They love it. He can't even make out a proper sentence. He interviews and he just, and goes off somewhere. We need someone who is strong. Could that be Kamala Harris? We don't know. Who knows how long Joe Biden's going to be there. But one thing I do know is that this is incredibly bad for the U.S. international. China's already been releasing statements saying that they will not make the same mistakes that the United States will when it came to Afghanistan. They do not want a boots on the ground presence. Look right here. At the same time, China has looked to get involved with any boots on the ground presence, as it does not want to repeat any mistakes or repeat the mistakes of the U.S. or be distracted from more pressing issues like Taiwan. Story says, referring to the island China claims as its own and threatens to invade. Now that is very interesting. I got a couple articles pulled up here just to take a look at how dire the need is to pay attention here for Taiwan. This is an island that China has never fully controlled since the Civil War, before World War II and after, when in 1949 Mao took over mainland China. Taiwan was ruled over by Chiang Kai-shek for generations ever since then, and Communist China's never had that control over the island. But that could change very soon. It is a tiny island nation, and China, which very close by, has second strongest military in the world. Who knows? But U.S. officials here on The Guardian, U.S. officials warn China against catastrophic move on Taiwan. A senior U.S. official has warned China not to seek emboldenment from its Hong Kong crackdown to move against Taiwan, as Japan's deputy leader said it would defend Taiwan against an attack. Kurt Campbell, coordinator for Indo-Pacific Affairs on the U.S. National Security Council, told a forum on Tuesday that the U.S. had tried to send a clear message of deterrence across the Taiwan Strait. Any attempt by China to move on Taiwan would be catastrophic. After Afghanistan, the reputation of the United States military in other countries has been dramatically shaken, and especially in the eyes of Russia and China, which is the United States' biggest competitors. There's no doubt about that. If China can go into make good relationships with the Taliban, they gain a possible trade partner and ally, and an enemy, saying, enemy of my enemy is my friend. Well, Taliban is our enemy, and China very well could take that into their advantage. They've been doing that for a long time. They're very smart, and they will do everything that they can to give them a bigger bubble of trade influence from the United States, especially with Taiwan. Japan's deputy leader said that it would defend Taiwan, but that's still not going to be enough. Is the United States going to defend? We don't know. There has been a threat from the Chinese government if the United States sends any troops to Taiwan that it will treat it as an act of war. I'll go ahead and get that shown to you here. Okay, so this is very interesting. So this was a United States senator, his name was John Cornyn. I may pronounce that wrong. But he mistakenly tweeted that there were 30,000 United States military troops in Taiwan. And there was a pretty big reaction from the Chinese government. I'm going to go ahead and read all of this to you. On Monday, Cornyn compared how many troops were in Afghanistan in recent months to those stationed elsewhere, including 30,000 he said were in Taiwan. People were quick to point out that the number was incorrect, and Cornyn deleted the tweet, but Chinese state media accused him of testing China with the claim. Someone said that Cornyn mistook that number by using the number of previous U.S. troops stationed on Taiwan Island before China and the U.S. set up diplomatic relations. I think that the senator is not confused, and he wants to test our response. My answer to him is war. Hu Zhijin, editor-in-chief of the Global Times, posted on Twitter. My answer to him is war. Can you believe that? This is just recent, just in the last week. These people are not joking. They are very serious. And you look at the United States and it looks like our government is a joke. Yeah, Joe Biden can't even make a sentence that says adamantly that Afghanistan will not fall. We will not see another Saigon. Boom. It's even worse than what happened in Saigon. What else has he been wrong about? What else is he going to be wrong about? If his intelligence is telling him, why are we not seeing resignations? We haven't seen one. There has not been a single major U.S. official at the top that has resigned after this. Even Joe Biden, like he could have resigned for this. This is awful. There's going to be so many people die from his decision here. He just fumbled the football here. I mean, he just totally screwed up. People are going to pay for it with their lives, and he's on vacation. This is your president. Trump, with all his faults, again, not a conservative, but Trump, with all of his faults, would not have looked weak. If anything, he would not have looked weak foreign-wise. Any foreign policy decision he made, he did not look weak. Now, Joe Biden is the exact opposite. He looks very weak. We'll go ahead and continue reading this article. The global op-ed said China would destroy U.S. troops and realize reunification by force. This is crazy. I'll go ahead and continue from up top. Beijing sees Taiwan as an integral part of its territory, and Chinese President Xi Jinping said this summer that reunification was a historic mission. Any attempt to make Taiwan independent of China must be utterly defeated, according to Xi. Chinese officials and op-eds in the Global Times have been warning about the potential for armed conflict over the region. This is crazy. If there are U.S. troops in Taiwan, we believe that an all-out war across the Taiwan Straits will break out quickly, and the Chinese People's Liberation Army will wipe out the U.S. forces, liberate the island of Taiwan, and settle the Taiwan question once and for all, the op-ed said. We haven't seen anything from our side, our military, our government, that has been this strong since Donald Trump left. If you watch where they had that meeting in Alaska between Secretary Blinken and some Chinese officials, they were just laughing about us, making threats. We just stood there and we had to watch this embarrassing fool who can't even... By Jake Tapper, he gets embarrassed on national television. He is who we're sending to talk to this government. These people don't like us. They might see us having some monetary value, but when it comes to relationships, there can't be two superpowers. There's not going to be another Cold War. One of their countries is going to either step down and let the other take its place as the global superpower, or it's going to be vice versa. And it could be the United States remains, or it's going to be China remains. Is conflict going to happen? Possibly. But the way that we're going, if there is a conflict, it doesn't look very good for us. I'm just going to leave it there when it comes to conflict, but I'm all about peace. I want peace. I want trade. There's so much that we could gain financially from each other. But, you know, whenever one superpower rises up, there's usually war. And it's like 8 out of 10 times in history that's happened. Or it might be even larger than that. You know, drop in the comments if I'm wrong. The fall of Afghanistan, could that mean that we're seeing the fall of the United States? Could that mean that we're seeing the decline of this great nation? Could that also mean that other nations will see this as a signal of our downfall? Could it be the downfall of our country? We don't know. We can only hope not. We can only hope that, you know, people will come together. I mean, based on the poll here, they're coming together when it comes to hate. Joe Biden ain't that great. Trump, again, I'm not a conservative, but there was a lot of things that Trump did right. He did stuff wrong, but when it comes to Joe Biden, it looks like he's doing everything wrong. And the stuff that he's doing okay at, you can't get a good question out of him. You can't get a good explanation. All you see is little press conferences where he just mumbles on, and then you go to the news article and they put his sentence together for him. Watch the Don Lemon interview. You'll see what I'm talking about. Every single interview he's had within the last month been falling apart. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But other countries are seeing it. To deny that is wrong. You can't see it anywhere on social media, but when it comes to how he's speaking coherently, it's just not there. It's really not. And other people, like I said, they are seeing it. These signals with China, they're not afraid of us. Why should they be? We leave our own people in Afghanistan. We just leave our own people there in Afghanistan. We pull out our military before the contractors and our civilians in the embassy get out. And then we have to resend them back. The UK did not do that. Canada did not do that. They sent their troops there. They aren't leaving until their civilian personnel gets taken out. When we did not. Now, when you look at that, these are our allies. They're supposed to be looking to us for strength. When they see us faltering like that, they're like, this is not the United States from 5 years ago. Obama, I did not like everything he did, but he was not a coward. He was not weak. He had no problem sending in the military. And he did. When the Taliban came in, he cracked down on them. He sent drones. He sent missiles. He sent special forces. He killed Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. Joe Biden isn't even capable of sending in troops and letting them fight. Do I want violence? Absolutely not. But I want our citizens to be protected. He has been saying that he might leave them there. He said that we're going to get them all if possible before the time runs out. Before the time runs out on August 31st? No, sir. We have a duty to protect our people. And as president, it's his responsibility to do so. I've seen it on other podcasts, special forces, Army vets, and they're putting GoFundMes together for some of their interpreters that they had, back in Afghanistan and their families. There's tens of thousands of them. You think the Taliban is going to let them live in peace? No, they're going to see them as traitors, and they will kill them as traitors. Special visas were supposed to be issued for those people, and we're not seeing anything. In fact, we're just letting people cross the southern border, and we can't even help the people that deserve to become citizens, deserve visas, deserve protection. They fought for that. They fought side by side with some of our soldiers. They deserve all of the care that they showed us, and they're not getting that. What is this going to say for future conflicts? Other allies, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan. What are they going to say whenever they see that we just leave our own people behind? It's going to be a repeat of what happened with the Soviet Union. They gave the Afghans and the Taliban all kinds of weaponry to fight against the Soviets. And then after 9/11, they used those same weapons to fight against us. Except now we've given them weapons way stronger than what we gave them before. And they have a lot more of them. Who knows what's going to happen? The human rights violations are just beginning. When the videos start posting on social media of the beheadings and the women being tortured, maybe they'll realize the error of their mistake. The people that were once under their protection, that they just surrendered. Sheep to the wolves. They're going to be helpless to the slaughter. And we just gave it away. And it's hard to believe that a year ago, something like this would have been impossible. No one would have believed it. We thought, hey, we're getting out of this war. Longest war in American history. Not a death in 18 months. But no. We're going to be seeing a lot of deaths here soon. Not every American will get out. If they do, it'll be a surprise to me. But we won't know until that happens. It has just happened. Things are unfolding very quickly. Could be a different situation by the end of next week. I will be dropping a video next week to cover that. Just leave your thoughts below. This is our first podcast. Love to hear your feedback. Leave a comment below if you think Joe Biden did the right decision in pulling out out of Afghanistan. If you think that he could have done better, or if there's anything he could have done, leave that in the comments as well. Thank you guys. This is Back to the Center podcast. We will see you next week.